Welcome back to Deep Dive on the Starseed Films YouTube channel. We're so glad you've joined us again, and if this is your first time here, welcome to the journey. Deep Dive is where we unpack the wisdom of the world's greatest spiritual minds, from the mystics of the East to the metaphysical pioneers of the West. Each episode we take a powerful book or material and distill it down to its golden essence. So you don't just read it, you receive it.
Yeah, think of it as a spiritual download of deep universal truths into clear, grounded insights you can use right now. This is where the timeless meets the now. Let's dive in.
Have you ever found yourself wondering what truly lies beneath the surface of the spiritual traditions we think we know? Like, what if the most profound, transformative truths weren't just hidden in plain sight, but actually became obscured, maybe even intentionally buried, over centuries? Today, we're taking a deep dive into Michael Perlin's illuminating new book series, The Secret Teachings. It promises to uncover the esoteric, the mystical core of world religions like Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. Our mission, as always, is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, especially those shared mystical truths that often get lost under layers of, literal interpretations and institutional dogma.
That's right. And what's truly compelling about Perlin's work isn't just that it's fascinating history. These are profound insights, timeless wisdom actually designed to guide you, our listener, towards a deeper understanding of reality, connection, and yourself. Perlin suggests that these texts ultimately reveal a universal path to enlightenment, a direct experience of truth that transcends the specific frameworks of any single religion. It's about direct realization, not just blind belief.
And at the very heart of this universal message, there's this groundbreaking idea echoing across all these traditions, this fundamental unity that underlies all existence. Our perceived separation from the divine and even from each other is, in essence, an illusion. That's the bedrock, right? It's where all these secret teachings seem to start. It's a pretty radical concept for many, isn't it?
It truly is, yeah. It challenges our everyday experience of a fragmented world. Let's maybe dive into some specific examples that Perlin highlights from his sources. So, in the secret teachings of the Bible, Christ is reinterpreted not just as a historical figure, but as the internal logos, this divine intelligence that is inherent in all creation, and crucially within each of us. Think of Colossians 1.27, which speaks of Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Right.
Or Jesus' own words in the often overlooked Gospel of Thomas, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. Perlin argues that this profound message of inner self-discovery, the divinity within, was, over time, shifted by nascent religious institutions towards external worship and strict obedience. It kind of obscured the direct path.
So the message of an indwelling divine presence became more about an external deity you must worship through the institution. Wow, that's a massive shift. What about Judaism? How does that fit?
Exactly. Moving to Judaism, the secret teachings of the Torah illuminates the profound meaning of the Shema, the central prayer. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now, for many, this sounds like a declaration of monotheism, which it is on one level, but Perlin shows that in its deeper Kabbalistic sense, it's a declaration of radical non-duality, oneness. Kabbalah speaks of Ein Sof, which means the infinite. It's the utterly boundless, unknowable Godhead. Creation, then, isn't something separate from God. Instead, it's understood as a zimsum, a deliberate constriction or withdrawal of this infinite light, allowing finite creation to emerge.
Like holding back energy so something specific can appear.
Kind of, yeah. Like an artist momentarily holding back their full creative force to allow a specific masterpiece to appear. This withdrawal creates the 10 sephiro, which are essentially divine emanations or attributes. But critically, they are not separate from God. They are God revealing himself in various forms. So all apparent multiplicity, everything we see as distinct and separate in the world, is ultimately, an illusion. Everything is truly one, an extension of the divine.
That makes the concept of oneness so much richer than just one God. It's like an interconnected fabric. How does this universal theme show up in the Eastern traditions Perlin covers?
In Hinduism, the secret teachings of the Vedas introduces perhaps one of the most powerful and succinct spiritual statements ever, Tat Tivam Asi. It translates to, thou art that. And this isn't a metaphor. Perlin stresses it's a direct, uncompromising declaration that your individual self, your Atman, is identical to the ultimate reality, Brahman, the universe recognizing itself within you. The Rigveda's Nasadiya Sukta, the ancient hymn of creation, speaks of the one before existence from which everything arose. This primary unity, however, gets veiled by Maya. Maya isn't just illusion like a magic trick, but a cosmic power that creates the appearance of separateness and multiplicity. It's the veil through which we perceive the world as fragmented, leading directly to suffering.
Hmm.
The nugget here really is that suffering isn't primarily due to external circumstances, but our fundamental misperception of reality as separate.
So suffering is essentially a symptom of forgetting our true nature, our connection to everything. And Buddhism takes this idea of non-self even further, doesn't it, to an even more radical conclusion.
It absolutely does, yeah. The secret teachings of the Buddha reveals the radical concepts of anatta, or non-self. The profound understanding that our individual identity, our ego, is ultimately an illusion. There's no fixed, independent self that endures. And then there's sunyata, or emptiness. Now, this isn't nothingness or nihilism. That's a common misunderstanding. It's the understanding that all phenomena lack inherent, independent existence. Everything is empty of a permanent, separate essence, because everything is interconnected, constantly arising in dependence on other conditions. It's like a wave.
Right, it looks separate, but it's just the ocean moving.
Exactly. It appears to be a separate thing, but it has no independent existence apart from the ocean and the wind and everything else. What Perelin points out, which is fascinating, is how this aligns quite profoundly with modern quantum physics. Quantum physics describes the universe not as solid, separate particles, but as a dynamic, unified field of energy and information where everything is intrinsically connected.
That's a truly mind-bending connection. Ancient wisdom kind of mirroring cutting-edge science. What about in Islam? How does oneness feature there in the esoteric sense?
Well, in Islam, the secret teachings of the Quran emphasizes Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God. The Quran states, He is the first and the last, the outward and the inward. Now, for the Sufis, the mystics of Islam, Tawhid isn't just a theological belief, it's the ultimate experiential realization. It's where the illusion of the separate self, the nafs, dissolves into divine reality. Their central declaration, La ilaha illa, there is no God but God, becomes in its deepest sense a statement of Fana, the annihilation of the ego. It's the experience where all illusions of selfhood disappear into divine unity. Perlin emphasizes this isn't about becoming God, but realizing there was never any separation to begin with.
It's truly striking, isn't it? The sheer consistency across these seemingly disparate traditions, all pointing to the exact same fundamental truth. Suffering arises from this illusion of separation, and the path to liberation involves recognizing our inherent oneness with the divine. So what does this all mean for us, practically speaking? If this deep dive is about being well-informed, what's the actionable insight here for you listening?
Right. And what's fascinating here is how these secret teachings provide really a direct roadmap for transformation. They're not just abstract philosophies. They offer concrete methods for you to actually experience this unity, moving beyond intellectual belief and into direct personal realization. These are tools for awakening.
So less about what to believe and maybe more about what to do or experience.
Precisely. Exactly. In Christianity, Perlin unpacks Jesus' parables as coded messages for inner transformation, not just simple moral stories. For instance, the Good Samaritan isn't just a tale of charity. It's seen as an allegory for the soul's journey of inner healing and compassion. The wounded traveler represents the fragmented self. And the innkeeper symbolizes the inner Christ consciousness that offers refuge and healing, the prodigal son. That represents the soul's descent into the illusion of separateness and its eventual joyful return to divine awareness within. And the esoteric meaning of Jesus' death and resurrection, Perlin shows, isn't just about an external historical event. It's about crucifying the ego, the false self to attain divine truth while still alive, a profound state of spiritual rebirth here and now. Even the so-called lost beatitudes found in texts like the Gospel of Thomas and Gospel of the Hebrews emphasize inner qualities like purity of heart as the direct way to see God, rather than just adherence to external rites.
That really does radically change how one might approach the New Testament. How do Jewish mystical traditions guide this inner journey? What are the practices there?
Well, Jewish mystical traditions offer powerful practices like hitbodedut, that's spontaneous self-seclusion, often in nature, for prayer and contemplation, and hitbonut, deep intellectual and emotional contemplation of divine concepts. Both are designed to achieve divakut, which is direct divine union, or you could say cleaving to God. What Perlin highlights is that mitzvot, the 613 commandments, aren't just rigid laws in this view. They're seen as spiritual technologies. For example, Shabbat, the Sabbath, isn't just a day off. It's a sacred time to align one's soul with the divine flow, transforming mundane time into sacred experience.
Okay.
Similarly to Schillen, the phylacteries worn during prayer aren't just ritual objects, but powerful tools to bind the mind and heart to divine thought. And then there's the ancient Merkavah mysticism, which describes advanced practices for ascending through inner energetic realms to perceive the divine throne, which is really an experience of higher consciousness.
So ordinary rituals become these extraordinary inner journeys.
Okay.
What about in Hinduism? What are the tools there?
For Hinduism, the Vedic traditions offer a really rich tapestry of yogic disciplines. The Yajurveda details yajna, often translated as sacrifice. But Perlin shows this isn't merely external ritual sacrifice of offerings. At its esoteric core, yajna represents the burning away of ignorance and selfishness, our lower tendencies, to reveal the true self, the Atman. Soma, often misunderstood as just a physical ritual drink, symbolizes the inner divine bliss or nectar awakened through deep meditation and devotion. It's a profound state of spiritual ecstasy. And paths like Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion to a personal deity, and Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action, are presented not as duties, but as direct ways to align one's individual will with Dharma, the cosmic order and inherent truth of existence.
Right, aligning yourself with the flow of reality.
Exactly. And the Atharva Veda also emphasizes the immense power of sound through mantras like the Gayatri mantra. It's chanted to invoke divine light and wisdom, literally reshaping consciousness through vibration.
It sounds like a very holistic approach to awakening. And Buddhism, which is often seen as very disciplined, it has its own practical blueprint, right?
Indeed it does. In Buddhism, the Eightfold Path is presented as a practical blueprint for liberation. It's a systematic approach to transforming one's life and mind. It emphasizes right mindfulness, being fully present and aware of all experiences without judgment, and right concentration, which involves sustained focus leading to meditative absorption, or jhana. The Vipassana meditation in particular is a core technique. It leads to the dissolution of the ego, helping one see the impermanence and interconnectedness of all phenomena directly. And remarkably, Perlin notes how modern neuroscience has actually validated Vipassana's profound effects. It shows it can significantly reduce stress, enhance compassion, and even reshape the brain's physical structure.
Wow.
Aligning with the ancient claims of transformative experience.
That's a beautiful bridge between ancient spiritual wisdom and modern scientific understanding.
Okay.
And finally, what practical paths do we find in Islam's mystical tradition, in Sufism?
Sufism. In Islam, the Sufi path offers distinct stages of spiritual awakening, starting with Sharia, the outer law or exoteric practice, then moving to Tariqa, the spiritual path itself, leading to Hakika, the ultimate reality or truth, and finally Marifa, absolute gnosis or direct knowledge of God. Key Sufi practices are profoundly transformative. Fana, the annihilation of the ego, is often described as dying before you die, meaning the ego self perishes while the true self, the divine essence within, is fully realized. Dhikr, the remembrance of God, often involves rhythmic chanting of divine names, which can induce deep meditative states and purify the heart. And Merkavah is deep contemplation or meditation, where the seeker simply witnesses thoughts and feelings, cultivating an inner stillness and connection to the divine presence.
And love seems central too.
Absolutely central. Divine love, or ishq hakiki, is seen as the core force uniting the soul with God. It's beautifully captured by the Persian poet Rumi, who said, "Lovers don't finally meet somewhere, they are in each other all along." It's the recognition of inherent unity through the force of divine love. Hafiz, another great Sufi poet, also speaks of the intoxication of God, not with wine, but with the divine presence itself.
That's just astounding, isn't it? The sheer consistency, these diverse practices across traditions that seem so different on the surface, all pointing to the exact same inner experience of unity and liberation. So here's where it gets really interesting for me. If these are such profound, direct roadmaps to inner realization, why were they often hidden or even actively suppressed? This feels like a core piece of Perlin's puzzle.
Yes, this raises an incredibly important question, and Perlin dedicates significant attention to it. He suggests that as religions institutionalized, the focus often shifted dramatically, shifted away from personal, direct experience towards external rules, control, and dogma. It makes a certain kind of sense, unfortunately. For instance, in early Christianity, Mary Magdalene's crucial role as Jesus' spiritual equal and the bearer of his deepest teachings as revealed in texts like the Gospel of Mary and Pistis Sophia was systematically diminished.
Why, though?
Well, her teachings emphasize inner wisdom and direct access to God, which threatened an emerging patriarchal hierarchy. Eliminating female leadership and emphasizing external obedience to the church became, it seems, paramount. The focus shifted from Christ in you to Christ in the church.
So it was less about the original truth and more about maintaining power structures.
Precisely. That seems to be the argument. Another example in early Christianity is the concept of reincarnation. While apparently believed by early Christian thinkers like Origen, it was systematically removed from official doctrine. Why? Because the idea of multiple lifetimes for spiritual progression gave individuals a sense of autonomy and long-term spiritual growth. Removing it made salvation seem like a one-time urgent event with eternal consequences.
Increasing dependence on the institution.
Exactly. It dramatically increased control over believers and their absolute dependence on the church for salvation. It fostered fear and obedience, you could say.
That's a powerful motive. Did similar suppression happen in other traditions Perlin looks at?
Absolutely. In Islam, for instance, Sufi mystics like Al-Hallaj, who famously declared Ana Halak, I am the truth, meaning I am the divine reality, were persecuted and even executed. His declaration was misunderstood, perhaps deliberately, as blasphemy by the exoteric religious authorities. But for Al-Hallaj, it was the ultimate realization of oneness, the Fana we discussed earlier. Such direct personal communion with God threatened the authority of emerging religious institutions, who preferred an emphasis on intermediaries and external laws. The shift towards legalism and outward observance often obscured the Quran's role as a mystical roadmap, and in many cases turned it into a book primarily of external rulings, much to the chagrin of the Sufis.
So the common thread seems pretty clear. The great masters like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, they didn't necessarily come to start rigid religions or build massive institutions of control. They came to awaken humanity to its own divine nature and provide tools for that awakening. Their true message, when viewed through these secret teachings, is really about showing a path to self-realization, not demanding blind worship or rigid adherence to dogma.
Precisely. That's the core argument Perlin builds. The universal wisdom, as he meticulously uncovers, is consistent across these traditions. God or the divine is within you. Suffering is an illusion created by perceived separation. Liberation comes from self-realization, and love and compassion are central to this path, not merely as virtues, but as expressions of this fundamental oneness. It's truly fascinating how even modern science, particularly quantum physics, is now echoing these ancient non-dual insights, showing the interconnectedness of all existence at a fundamental level. It suggests these secret teachings might be reflecting an objective reality we're only now rediscovering scientifically.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Our deep dive into Michael Perlin's secret teachings reveals a powerful, unifying message that beyond the layers of dogma and the outward differences of various traditions, there's a singular universal path to inner awakening. A path that has always been available if only we knew where to look, or perhaps how to look.
Right. The ultimate truth, it seems, is not found in external doctrines, nor in adhering strictly to external systems, but in direct personal experience and the recognition of the divine within. Perlin's work in uncovering these ancient threads suggests that perhaps the greatest secret teaching isn't some hidden text or forgotten ritual, but the profound realization that you are the very thing you seek, and that your own self-realization is not just a personal journey, but maybe the greatest service you can render the world. Because in realizing your oneness, you realize the oneness of all. So maybe the question to leave you with is, what might you discover if you begin to look for these secret teachings operating within your own life, within your own traditions, or maybe even beyond them?